Hey guys, tonight we're traveling back to a time before cities, before pyramids, before even the first mammals squeaked in the undergrowth. We're going to a world so raw, so alien, that if you stepped out of your front door and landed there, you'd probably last about, 7 seconds. Maybe less if you didn't bring snacks. The air is thicker, the sun feels harsher, and the ground rumbles beneath creatures you've never even dreamed of. Trust me, you'd be more appetizer than adventurer out here. And yes, you definitely wouldn't survive. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know in the comments, where are you watching from tonight? And what time is it in your corner of the world? I love imagining this little community scattered across the globe, all lying back, cozy and safe, while I whisper about times when the earth was anything but safe. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step through the doorway of imagination and suddenly find yourself standing in a barren valley at the end of the Permian period, around 250 million years ago. No birdsong, no green grass. Instead, the land stretches in reddish-brown tones, rivers reek of mud, and the suffocating air feels as if you're trapped inside a steam room where the temperature is always set too high. Here, reptiles are only just beginning to test their strength. You hear a faint scraping near your feet. A creature the size of a dog with a flattened body and slick, shiny skin slithers past. It's one of the primitive parareptiles, an ancient ancestor few people know about. They're not as majestic as the dinosaurs you've seen in films, but they are the first bricks in the foundation of the colossal age to come. A little farther on, you see synapsids, the ancestors of mammals, still ruling the land. They look bizarre, half lizard, half dog with serrated teeth. People often forget that before dinosaurs took the stage, it was these creatures that reigned as the true masters of the planet. But fate rarely favors the one sitting on the throne. You slow your steps, breathing in the heavy air, and listening to the wind sweeping through tall aquatic plants. From a distance, a small archosaur peeks its head out. This is the group that will one day evolve into crocodiles. And, of course, dinosaurs. For now, they're modest, undersized, but their bright eyes and proud gait seem to hint they already know the future belongs to them. A curious fact, some archosaur fossils bear traces of tough scales mixed with primitive feathers, like a hybrid cloak. Natural historians still debate whether these were the earliest sparks of what would later become wings. You hear the ground cracking beneath your feet, as if lava still breathes below. This planet has never known peace. Volcanoes erupt constantly. Climates shift without warning. In this moment, every species is playing a brutal game of survival. Looking up, you see the sun blazing like a fiery disk, casting a harsh red-orange glow across the dry earth. A thought flashes through your mind. Well, even SPF 50 sunscreen wouldn't help much here. And yet, strangest of all, life refuses to yield. From cracks in the rocks, ferns and club moss sprout defiantly. In the lakes, ancient fish meters long glide about, snapping up giant insects that tumble onto the water. You reach out toward a dragonfly, its wings as long as your forearm, and you can't help thinking, if these still existed today, outdoor picnics wouldn't be nearly as fun. You climb over a rocky slope, and a new scene unfolds. A herd of dicynodonts, creatures with turtle-like beaks, bulky bodies like wild boars, and small tusks. They huddle together in the shade of plants, grumbling in low, guttural sounds. Not exactly cute, but they dominated the land for millions of years before dinosaurs even had their chance. One paleontologist once called them the strange sheep of prehistory. And you can't help but chuckle watching them chew through branches as tough as baseball bats. But the shadow of destruction is never far. At the close of the Permian, the greatest extinction in Earth's history looms, the Great Dying. Around 90% of marine life and 70% of land animals will vanish. You shiver, realizing you're standing at the brink of catastrophe. Scholars still argue over the cause. Was it the massive Siberian volcanic eruptions lasting millions of years? Or the choking changes in the global climate? Perhaps both, conspiring together to open the door for new life. You inhale deeply, catching the sulfur in the air. A hot wind sweeps past, carrying ash and scorching dust. It's the signal of upheaval. The creatures you've just seen, parareptiles, dicynodonts, many won't survive the coming trial, but a few, small and cunning, will endure to seed a new era, the Age of Dinosaurs. You stand still, feeling as though you were inside a colossal IMAX theater, with no seats, no popcorn, and certainly no emergency exits. Thunder rumbles in the distance, the sky darkens, and the earth seems to hold its breath. You realize you've just witnessed the opening act of both a tragedy and a legend, the dawn of reptiles, the first light of the creatures destined to become the true rulers of this planet. You keep walking, your feet crunching over red dust that clings to your skin like powdered rust, and soon you find yourself at the edge of a river. It isn't the kind of river you'd recognize today. There's no lazy blue ribbon winding through green fields. Instead, this river churns thick and sluggish, like chocolate poured from a cracked cauldron, and it stinks faintly of sulfur. The air buzzes with a chorus of insects the size of your hand, each wing beat more like the hum of a small engine than the flutter of something delicate. And then you see them, small, lean creatures scuttling along the muddy banks, their limbs angled awkwardly like crooked stilts. Their skulls are narrow, their eyes wide and bright, and their gait, half hop, half sprint, carries a strange promise. These are the early archosaurs, the ruling reptiles in training, and though they look unimpressive compared to the bulky beasts that share this world, you can sense a kind of confidence in them, as if the entire future is whispering, just wait. The dominant predators of the day aren't dinosaurs yet. No, at this moment, the stage belongs to the Rauisuchians, archosaur cousins that resemble nightmarish crocodiles stretched onto stilted legs. One lumbers into view, its scales glinting black, its mouth lined with teeth long enough to make a butcher's knife jealous. You watch as it lowers its head toward the river, sending the smaller creatures scattering like startled pigeons. You suddenly feel the urge to step back, though of course you're a ghost in this vision, and if you weren't, well, let's just say you'd have been snapped up quicker than a free donut in an office break room. You glance across the plains beyond the river and notice another oddity. Reptiles shaped like massive armored tanks, their bodies low and wide, their skin studded with bony plates. These are the Edosaurs, plant eaters with the unfortunate vibe of prehistoric bulldogs dressed in medieval armor. Scientists still debate exactly why they wore such heavy plating. Defense against predators is the obvious answer, but some paleontologists suspect the plates also acted like solar panels, soaking up heat to regulate their bodies. Imagine a reptilian Prius, but meaner and a lot less fuel efficient. Here and there, clusters of primitive ferns and cycads push up through the cracked ground. No flowers, no grass, no buzzing bees. The plant world at this time is monotone, mostly greens and browns, and it lends the landscape an eerie, almost alien quality. You catch yourself thinking it feels like wandering onto a movie set before the art department has added any final touches. The whole place hums with potential, but it hasn't quite bloomed yet. As the sun lowers in the sky, painting the clouds in streaks of molten orange, you notice another change. Herds of small bipedal reptiles skittering between the shadows. These are the true dinosauriforms, the prototypes of what will soon dominate the world. They're no bigger than dogs now, sharp-eyed and nimble, snapping at insects and darting away from larger threats. They're quick learners, opportunists, the kind of creatures that thrive when the rules of the game suddenly shift. And in this era of constant upheaval, being adaptable is worth more than being big. A strange calm settles in, the kind that makes the back of your neck prickle. You can sense the world bracing for another great turning point. Volcanoes grumble in the distance, seas rise and fall. Life is playing roulette, and every spin will kill some and crown others. What strikes you most, though, is how much of this story hangs by a thread. If a Rowisukian had stayed on top, or if those small dinosauriforms had been stomped out, your bedtime story would be about a very different world. Instead, history is sliding, quietly but firmly, toward its next chapter, the one where dinosaurs step out of the shadows and seize the throne. And as you stand there, feeling the heat ripple off the earth, you can't help but think, in a world this brutal, being small, fast, and a little bit lucky might just be the best superpower of all. The heat doesn't let up. It clings to your skin, heavy and damp, as if the air itself were a wet blanket someone draped over your shoulders. You move across the plains and the world shifts subtly, quietly, time flowing forward into the Triassic twilight, that narrow corridor when the first true dinosaurs finally creep onto the stage. They are still small, almost laughably so compared to the hulking Rowisukians that prowl the land. But size isn't everything. In fact, as you watch them dart between ferns and leap across dry stream beds, you realize agility might be the ticket to their survival. One of them freezes in front of you. Eoraptor, no bigger than a medium-sized dog, with long hind legs and sharp, grasping hands. Its eyes gleam in the low light, quick and intelligent, scanning the undergrowth for something tasty. This little creature is among the earliest dinosaurs known to science, a kind of experimental blueprint from which bigger, bolder designs will eventually be drafted. You notice the way it tilts its head, bird-like, as though weighing the odds of attack versus retreat. Spoiler, you would not win that staring contest. Nearby, another species bursts onto the scene, Herrerasaurus, slender but fierce, its jaws lined with curved teeth, built for slicing flesh. You watch it stalk quietly through the brush, tail stretched out like a counterweight, before lunging at an unsuspecting lizard. The kill is messy, brutal, but efficient, and you feel that primal shiver crawl up your spine. Here, at last, is a predator that looks uncomfortably familiar, the ancestor of the terrible lizards that will one day rule the earth. And yet, despite their menace, these early dinosaurs are underdogs. They share the land with much larger, more established reptiles. Postosuchus, for example, looms nearby, a Rowisukian predator that makes Herrerasaurus look like a scrappy street cat, picking fights with a tiger. Its footsteps echo like drums as it moves, sending small creatures scattering. You find yourself almost rooting for the dinosaurs, the way you might cheer for an indie band playing in a grimy basement, hoping they'll somehow make it big despite the giants hogging the spotlight. The plant life around you offers another clue that times are changing. Ferns and cycads still dominate, but new players, ginkgo-like trees, start to dot the landscape, spreading their fan-shaped leaves into the sun. It's a subtle reminder that even ecosystems are evolving in tandem with their animal inhabitants, reshaping the very stage on which these dramas unfold. You pluck a leaf, running your fingers along its smooth surface, and wonder how many millions of years it will persist. Because yes, ginkgo trees will still be around when you go back home and order your next overpriced coffee. The air grows thick with sound, cicada-like calls, distant bellows, the hiss of something moving unseen. Life here is loud, persistent, and a little chaotic, like living in an apartment building with paper-thin walls and very inconsiderate neighbors. And yet, in that noise, you can sense resilience. Every call, every chirp is a proclamation. We're still here. We're not done yet. Then, as the sun dips behind volcanic ridges, shadows stretch long and sharp. You catch sight of a small pack of early dinosaurs moving together, not as scattered loners, but as a coordinated unit. They weave between tree trunks, communicating with subtle gestures and quiet chirps. Cooperation. This is new, and it will change everything. A single Herrerasaurus is vulnerable, but a pack. That's a different story. It's like switching from dial-up internet to Wi-Fi. Once the innovation arrives, the old way suddenly feels obsolete. Still, their grip on the world is precarious. One wrong shift in climate, one unlucky eruption, and these fragile pioneers could vanish forever. Paleontologists argue endlessly about whether dinosaurs rose to dominance purely by chance or through some hidden superiority. Was it speed, breathing efficiency, egg survival, or were they just the scrappy survivors who happened to be in the right place when their rivals stumbled? The truth, like most things in deep time, is messy. But here, watching them test their claws against an unforgiving world, you can't help but sense destiny humming in the background. You lean against a stone, feeling its warmth seep into your hands, and glance back toward the horizon. The giants still rule, the Rauisuchians, the armored Etosaurs, the stubborn synapsids clinging to survival. But the future is shifting under their feet. Those nimble shapes darting in the dusk, those tiny predators testing their teeth. They are the whispers of an empire not yet built, an empire that will soon roar loud enough to drown the rest. For now, the world sleeps uneasily, balanced on a knife edge between past and future. And you, lucky traveler, get to linger in this fragile dawn, watching history roll the dice. The night hum fades, and with it the last hints of the Triassic underdogs. You blink, and suddenly the world feels bigger. Not just the landscape, but the creatures themselves. The ones lumbering into view now are no longer scrappy experiments darting between shadows. These are giants in training, the first true hints of the colossal dynasty that will define the next 100 million years. You step onto a floodplain, bathed in hazy light. Rivers sprawl wide, splitting into braided channels, their muddy waters alive with darting fish and amphibians the size of small sofas. On the far bank, a shadow rises. At first you think it's just a boulder, until it lumbers forward on pillar-like legs. Meet Plateosaurus, one of the earliest long-necked herbivores, stretching more than 30 feet. Its neck sweeps side to side like a crane searching for fresh greens, and you feel dwarfed in its presence, as though the ground itself has grown legs and started moving. The funny thing? Plateosaurus still walks with the awkwardness of someone wearing shoes 2 sizes too big. Sometimes it rears on hind legs, sometimes it plods on all fours, clearly undecided about how best to carry its oversized body. But clumsy or not, this is the start of a lineage, the sauropodomorphs, that will one day produce behemoths longer than a basketball court. You glance up at its massive belly and think, if this thing sneezed, you'd be airborne. Not far away, you hear a deep, throaty bellow that vibrates in your ribs. Turning, you see another herbivore, Rheosaurus, moving through the grove. Its skin is mottled, patterned to break up its outline among cycads and conifers. Though less famous than its descendants, it plays an important role, a stepping stone toward the true sauropods of the Jurassic. These early longnecks aren't just big, they're innovators, testing new ways to eat higher, move farther, and outlast rivals who still prefer snacks within arm's reach. And of course, wherever there are giants, predators lurk nearby, sharpening their strategies. In the underbrush slinks Lilian sternus, an early theropod predator, about the size of a modern car. Its teeth glint as it tracks a young Plateosaurus, patient and calculating. You can almost feel its hunger radiating, a reminder that the food chain is always hungry, always waiting. Predators like this will refine the blueprint that later gives us the iconic Allosaurus and, eventually, the infamous T-Rex. But right now, it's all about testing the balance of power. Can speed, sharp teeth, and cunning offset sheer size? The environment itself feels in transition. Tall conifers dominate the skyline, their needles forming dark green clouds overhead. Ferns carpet the ground, punctuated by horsetail reeds along swampy patches. Here and there, you see cycads shaped like giant pineapples, their fronds fanning outward. The air is warm, almost tropical, and carries that earthy perfume of damp soil and rotting vegetation. You breathe it in, and it sticks in your throat like a musty old basement. And then, the ground shudders. A distant rumble grows into a roar, not from an animal, but from deep within the earth. Volcanic activity pulses across the land, belching plumes of ash and reshaping the horizon. The Triassic world is volatile, and it's this restless geology that sets the stage for mass extinctions and sudden ecological reshuffles. You watch a thin ribbon of lava carve down a slope in the distance, glowing like spilled neon paint. And you know, survival here isn't just about claws and teeth. It's about outlasting the very planet's temper tantrums. One curious fact lingers in your mind as you watch these creatures. Many of these early dinosaurs were likely feathered, or at least fuzzy. Not the glorious bird-like plumage you might imagine, but simple filaments, insulating them against chill nights or helping regulate heat in the blazing sun. It's funny to imagine a giant plateosaurus with a patchy coat of fuzz, like an enormous overgrown chick. Paleontologists still argue about how widespread this feature was, but the evidence keeps hinting that dinosaurs were far stranger and fluffier than we first thought. The day wanes, casting long amber shadows. You notice a group of smaller prosauropods, juveniles perhaps, gathered near a shallow pool. They dip their long necks in tandem, sipping cautiously, every so often jerking upright at the snap of a twig. That jittery coordination feels oddly familiar, like teenagers at a school dance pretending not to care, but watching everyone else's moves. Somewhere in that nervous choreography lies the instinct for survival. Drink fast, stay alert, and don't be the slowest one in the group. The tension breaks suddenly. A Lilian sternus bursts from the tree line, scattering the herd. You feel your heart jolt, adrenaline surging as if you too are about to be chased. One unlucky youngster stumbles, slipping in the mud, and the predator pounces with terrifying precision. The kill is swift, the cries short-lived, and soon silence washes back over the clearing. You're left with the grim reality. Giants may rise, but predators adapt just as quickly. The balance is delicate, and the dice are still rolling. As the sky deepens into twilight, the silhouettes of long-necked herbivores drift across the horizon like living skyscrapers. Their sheer size makes them seem invincible. Yet, you know their story is only just beginning. They are the prototypes, the first sketches of greatness not yet perfected. Their true heirs, the titanic sauropods of the Jurassic, are still waiting in the wings. You linger at the edge of the floodplain, fireflies blinking faintly in the dusk, the smell of ash and wet greenery mingling in the air. And as the giants shuffle slowly into the gathering dark, you can't shake the thought. This is only the opening act. Morning arrives in a blaze of golden light, and with it, a sense that the world has turned a page. The awkward experiments of the Triassic are behind you. Now, as the Jurassic dawns, dinosaurs step into their prime, not as scrappy survivors or tentative prototypes, but as the undisputed monarchs of land, sea, and sky. The air feels different too, warmer, thicker with oxygen, as though the planet itself is feeding this explosion of life. You make your way across a lush valley where ferns sway like green waves in the breeze. Towering conifers pierce the skyline, their trunks so massive they look like the stone pillars of some forgotten temple. This is no longer a world of hesitant giants. It's a stage designed for spectacle, and every creature here seems aware of its role. A deep shadow passes overhead, and instinctively you duck. But it isn't a storm cloud. It's a pterosaur, wings stretched wider than a family car, gliding with effortless grace. Its wingtips flicker against the morning sun, turning the sky into a theater. You can almost hear it laugh at gravity, swooping down to snatch a fish from the surface of a lake. True, these flying reptiles aren't dinosaurs themselves, but they share the same empire, and their reign of the skies has only just begun. On the ground, your eyes widen as the true stars of the Jurassic appear. The sauropods. Where Plateosaurus once shuffled awkwardly, its descendants now stride with unshakable confidence. Ahead, a herd of Diplodocus moves in slow procession, each one nearly 90 feet from snout to tail. Their necks sway like cranes in a harbor, plucking leaves high above where no rival can reach. The ground trembles under their combined weight, and the sheer scale makes you feel smaller than an ant on a stadium floor. Nearby, another colossus makes its entrance, Brachiosaurus, towering higher than any other. Unlike Diplodocus with its horizontal sweep, Brachiosaurus holds its neck aloft, angled like a giraffe, browsing from treetops untouched by others. It's a living skyscraper, and you catch yourself grinning. If this creature wandered into a modern city, it would peer into apartment windows on the 12th floor and ask for snacks. And yet, this isn't just a land of giants. Beneath the canopy, smaller dinosaurs thrive too. Agile ornitholestes darts between ferns, eyes sharp, claws ready to snatch unwary prey. Packs of feathered Coelophysis descendants still run swift and lean, chasing insects and small reptiles. They may look insignificant next to a Brachiosaurus, but here in the Jurassic, every niche is claimed, every shadow filled. The balance of predator and prey shifts dramatically with the arrival of Allosaurus. You hear it before you see it. The rhythmic thud of footsteps, the bone-deep growl that prickles your skin. Then it emerges, jaws agape, serrated teeth flashing. This is no Herrerasaurus scrapper. This is a professional, a 3-ton killing machine. You watch it stalk a herd of juvenile sauropods, working with patience, waiting for one to stumble. Paleontologists still debate whether Allosaurus hunted in groups or just took opportunistic swipes at the unlucky. But in this moment, you sense the terrifying possibility of teamwork. A sudden fact bubbles up as you watch. Some researchers suggest Allosaurus had a weaker bite than expected, relying instead on powerful neck muscles to hack downward like an axe. Imagine being attacked not by a simple chomp, but by a serrated guillotine on legs. Comforting, right? Sweet dreams. The Jurassic world is also astonishingly diverse in its plant life. Ferns and cycads still thrive, but new plant groups, the first true conifers and ginkgo forests, expand across the continents, feeding the rise of these massive herbivores. You pluck another fan-shaped ginkgo leaf, noting its uncanny similarity to the ones still sold as herbal supplements in modern pharmacies. Yes, the same tree-feeding dinosaurs is now packaged in little bottles, claiming to improve your memory. Talk about staying power. The climate, too, is unusually stable. Warm, wet, and oxygen-rich, it creates the perfect greenhouse for life to sprawl unchecked. Crocodile relatives bask in river shallows, turtles paddle lazily in ponds, and insects buzz in maddening swarms. You swat at a mosquito the size of a modern dragonfly, and suddenly feel grateful for window screens back home. But what strikes you most isn't just the scale of these animals, it's the rhythm. The herds of sauropods move with the slow certainty of tides. The predators circle with calculated patience. The flyers ride thermal currents like living kites. This is no longer a chaotic experiment. This is choreography, an entire biosphere moving in step. As dusk falls, the valley glows amber. A line of Diplodocus silhouettes moves against the horizon, tails whipping lazily like whips slicing the air. Far above, pterosaurs wheel in the fading light, their wings catching the last rays. And in the distance, the echo of an Allosaurus roar ripples across the land. Not just a sound of hunger, but a declaration. This is our world now. And you, tiny visitor, stand in the middle of it, heart pounding, lungs filled with the ancient air, knowing you've stepped into the golden age of dinosaurs. The night is restless. A chorus of chirps, croaks, and distant bellows keeps the darkness alive, as though the land itself refuses to sleep. You crouch low among cycads, the fronds brushing your shoulders, and realize quickly, this is predator country. The Jurassic might be lush and abundant, but here, survival belongs to the sharp-toothed and the ruthless. From the undergrowth emerges a figure that makes your stomach knot. Ceratosaurus. Smaller than Allosaurus, but no less dangerous, it carries itself with the swagger of a street fighter, its short arms tucked close, its long tail swaying like a counterweight. The most striking feature, of course, is the horn on its snout, like nature's idea of a bad joke, as though a rhinoceros had been reimagined by someone obsessed with reptiles. The horn may not have been useful in combat, but it was perfect for display, a prehistoric billboard flashing, "I'm dangerous, stay back." You follow as it moves down toward a riverbank. The moonlight glimmers on the water, and for a brief second you catch sight of something enormous gliding just beneath the surface. Crocodiliforms lurk here too, ancient relatives of crocodiles, some stretching longer than buses. One snap from those jaws, and even Ceratosaurus would become a midnight snack. But the predator knows its terrain. It slinks away, blending into shadows, and fixes its gaze instead on a smaller prize. A flock of feathered ornithopods grazing nearby. The chase erupts suddenly, an explosion of chaos. Ceratosaurus lunges, jaws snapping, teeth flashing like knives in a strobe light. The ornithopods scatter, their calls sharp and panicked. You catch a glimpse of feathers shimmering in the moonlight, proof that the line between reptile and bird is already blurring. One unlucky straggler stumbles, and Ceratosaurus seizes its moment, clamping down with terrifying force. The kill is brutal. The night grows quiet again, and you feel your pulse finally slow. Predators like this aren't just hunters. They are reminders that balance here is maintained by blood. But Ceratosaurus isn't the only killer in town. Across the plains stalks the reigning heavyweight, Allosaurus. You hear it before you see it. The steady thud of heavy feet. The resonant growl that rolls through your chest like a subwoofer. When it steps into the open, its sheer presence silences the night chorus. Longer, taller, and heavier than Ceratosaurus, Allosaurus dominates this ecosystem like a mafia boss whose reputation alone makes rivals back away. You watch as an Allosaurus approaches a carcass already claimed by Ceratosaurus. The tension is electric. Ceratosaurus hisses, flaring its horned snout, while Allosaurus lowers its head, teeth bared, eyes glinting. For a moment you think there will be blood, but instead, Ceratosaurus slinks off, yielding the meal. Even in the Jurassic, size matters, and diplomacy sometimes comes down to who has the bigger jaw. Yet, despite its power, Allosaurus isn't invincible. Paleontologists debate whether it hunted cooperatively or struck alone, but one thing is certain, even giants have weaknesses. Allosaurus bones often show healed fractures, evidence of brutal hunts gone wrong. You imagine it lunging at a tail-swinging Diplodocus, only to be sent flying like a rag doll across the clearing. Hunting isn't just dangerous, it's a gamble, one where failure often means starvation. Further west, in wetter forests, another predator stalks the shadows. Torvosaurus, one of the largest megalosaurids. Broader and heavier than Allosaurus, it's like a tank compared to a sports car. Slower, but devastating when it connects. Some fossils suggest Torvosaurus may have rivaled Tyrannosaurus in length, though lighter in build. You can almost hear the historians' debates echoing. Was it truly the top predator of its time? Or was its reputation inflated by lucky fossil finds? The arguments rage on, but as you stand in its imagined presence, one thing feels clear. If it had caught your scent, you wouldn't be here to ponder it. The landscape itself conspires with these predators. River valleys funnel herds into choke points. Volcanic ridges force migrations along narrow trails, and dense forests provide endless ambush sites. You tread carefully, aware that in this world, simply existing means being on someone's menu. Even the giants, the Brachiosaurus, the Diplodocus, aren't safe. A pack of allosaurs could whittle down the weak and the young, turning even titans into vulnerable prey. Then there are the curiosities, creatures that defy expectation. Some early feathered theropods in the Jurassic forests show vibrant displays, not just weapons. Imagine predators with streaks of color, flashes of iridescence catching the eye. Perhaps hunting wasn't their only concern. Perhaps attraction and intimidation played equal roles. You can't help but grin. Dinosaurs may have been terrifying, but they probably also strutted like peacocks at times, turning the forest into a prehistoric runway. As dawn creeps back, the predators retreat into shadows, bellies full, breath steaming in the cool air. The valley lies quiet for now, the herds nervously resuming their grazing, the smaller creatures darting back into the open. You sit, heart still racing, realizing that in this age, every sunrise is both a gift and a gamble. The Jurassic is not just the age of giants, it is the age of predators perfected, the theater of power plays where survival is never guaranteed. And as you close your eyes for a moment, letting the morning light warm your face, you know this story is only sharpening its teeth. The light of morning spills gently across the land, and for once, you think the day might begin in peace. But listen closely. The forest isn't just a cathedral of ferns and cycads anymore. It hums with quick darting energy, the kind you'd expect from sparrows flitting in a park. Only these aren't sparrows. These are the new hunters, smaller, swifter, cleverer. And though they lack the sheer bulk of Allosaurus or Ceratosaurus, their future echoes down to every pigeon you've ever side-eyed on a city street. You push through the undergrowth and nearly trip as a blur dashes across your path. Compsognathus, a tiny dinosaur scarcely bigger than a chicken. It snaps up a lizard in its jaws and bolts, tail stiff like a balancing pole. The way it moves, head jerking, feet tapping, feathers catching light, feels strangely familiar. You could almost imagine it hopping onto a fence post, cocking its head, and demanding breadcrumbs. But don't let size fool you. These little hunters are opportunists, darting in where giants can't tread. Some even hunt in packs, swarming prey much larger than themselves. The idea sends a shiver down your back. You picture a group of Compsognathus working like a coordinated gang of alley cats, and suddenly the forest feels a lot less safe. Further along the trail, a more dazzling figure appears. Onchiornis, cloaked in delicate feathers, wings spread as it glides awkwardly between low branches. Its colors shimmer, reds, blacks, maybe even subtle whites, like nature experimenting with paint. Onchiornis doesn't quite fly, not yet, but it's closer than anything you've seen before. It's the kind of creature that makes you pause and whisper, yes, birds really are dinosaurs. And then, in a clearing, you catch sight of something even stranger. Archaeopteryx. Its wings spread in a feathery flourish. Its teeth gleam as it snatches an insect midair, and its long tail swishes like a reptilian flag. If you squint, it's a bird. If you squint harder, it's a dinosaur. The truth is both. Paleontologists still argue whether Archaeopteryx could truly fly or merely glide. But watching it flap awkwardly across the clearing feels like catching evolution red-handed. The air here is alive with sound. Chirps, trills, croaks, that feels eerily modern. Imagine closing your eyes, listening, and forgetting for a moment that you're not in a city park at dawn. And then you open your eyes to find not robins, but sharp-toothed hunters with claws that could slice your ankle. Comforting, isn't it? One curious fact drifts into your mind. Many feathered dinosaurs likely used their plumage not just for warmth, but for show. Courtship displays, territorial signals, even bluff intimidation. Bright feathers could have turned the Jurassic forest into something like a nightclub, with strobes of color flashing at every turn. You grin, picturing a pack of dinosaurs trying to outdance each other for a mate, and suddenly the prehistoric doesn't seem so far removed from Saturday nights downtown. And yet, amid the shimmering feathers and quicksilver movements, there's still menace. In the distance, you hear the shriek of a predator that makes your skin crawl. Velociraptor's early cousins. Not yet the Hollywood stars, but they're prototypes. They are lean, sickle-clawed, eyes sharp with intent. Watching them weave through the ferns, you sense a chilling truth. Intelligence is sharpening here. These hunters aren't just fast, they're thinking. You crouch low as the pack circles a much larger prey, testing its defenses, feinting in and out like boxers. One distracts, another lunges, a third cuts off retreat. It's almost military, a choreography of teeth and claws. The poor herbivore, some early ornithopod, stands no chance. You turn away before the end, but the sounds tell the story. These are predators built not just for strength, but for cooperation and cunning. The debate among paleontologists still lingers. How much intelligence did these feathered hunters truly have? Could they coordinate like wolves? Or is that just us projecting our fascination onto bones? The fossil record can't tell you everything. But standing here, in the thick of it, watching their eyes glint with calculation, you'd swear they were plotting something far bigger than dinner. As dusk settles, the forest glows with the last light. A Compsognathus perches on a log, silhouetted against the sunset. Anchiornis flutters between branches, its wings catching gold. Archaeopteryx lets out a rasping call, half bird, half reptile, wholly uncanny. And you realize, the age of giants may dominate the horizon, but here in the shadows, feathered hunters are rewriting the rules. One day, long after the titans vanish, their descendants will fill the skies, peck at crumbs on sidewalks, and sing outside your window at dawn. For now, though, they remain wild, sharp, and untamed, a reminder that even the smallest hunter can carry the weight of destiny in its wings. The forest fades, the calls of feathered hunters drifting behind you like the last notes of a song. You step forward and the ground softens underfoot, mud giving way to sand. The smell hits you first, salt, heavy and sharp, carried on a breeze that tastes like rusted metal and seaweed. Ahead, the horizon gleams with the shimmer of a vast Jurassic ocean. If the land belongs to dinosaurs, the seas are ruled by monsters of a different breed entirely. You wade in cautiously, waves lapping against your ankles. The water is warm, almost too warm, heated by a greenhouse world where polar ice is little more than a rumor. You glance down, expecting fish, and instead see a creature the size of a dolphin glide beneath your feet. It isn't a fish at all. It's an ichthyosaur, a reptile shaped like a torpedo, its body built for speed. It bursts upward in a flash, snapping up a squid before vanishing again into the blue. Further out, a shadow grows larger, much larger. At first, you mistake it for a reef until it moves. Slowly, with terrifying grace, an ophthalmosaurus surfaces, its enormous eyes glistening like dinner plates. Those eyes, among the largest of any known animal, are perfect for hunting in the dim depths. Imagine being stared at by a pair of headlights that can see through pitch blackness. You shiver, suddenly aware how small you are in this watery kingdom. The surface ripples violently, and the sea itself seems to split. Rising from below is a true leviathan, Leopleurodon. Its jaws longer than you are tall, teeth like ivory knives set in a smile that promises nothing good. It moves with deceptive elegance, a few strokes of its flippers propelling its bulk as if the ocean were silk. Some paleontologists argue whether Leopleurodon truly reached 50 feet, or if that's an exaggeration. But standing here, you hope the smaller estimates are true. Otherwise, you're staring at something that could swallow a great white shark like a sardine. A sudden commotion draws your gaze. A pod of ichthyosaurs darts frantically, pursued by the pliosaur. One strays too far from the group, and Leopleurodon strikes with a thunderous snap. The water churns red, foam exploding around the thrashing prey, before silence settles again. The sea swallows its secrets quickly. You swallow hard, realizing you're standing in the middle of an endless buffet, and you are very much on the menu. But not every reptile here is a monster. Some, like the plesiosaurs, look almost gentle, with their absurdly long necks and paddle-like limbs. A group surfaces nearby, their small heads bobbing comically on endless necks as they peer curiously at you. They look almost harmless, like the awkward nerds of the marine world. Yet appearances deceive. With a quick flick, one snatches a fish mid-leap, faster than you'd expect. Still, compared to Leopleurodon's raw terror, they feel almost like a relief. The reef below bustles with life. Coral-like structures bloom, fish flit in schools, and ammonites, spiraled mollusks with shells coiled like cinnamon buns, drift lazily in the currents. You spot one the size of a car tire and blink in disbelief. Some ammonites grew truly gigantic, their shells intricate and mesmerizing. You lean closer, tracing the spiral with your eyes, and wonder how many artists through history stole this pattern from nature without realizing it. Overhead, the sky itself seems alive. Pterosaurs swoop low, skimming the surface to pluck fish with needle-like beaks. One misjudges its dive, splashing clumsily, only to be swallowed whole by a marine reptile lurking just below. The lesson is sharp. Even rulers of the air are vulnerable when they trespass on the sea's domain. The strangest thought creeps in as you watch. This world looks oddly familiar. Dolphins echo ichthyosaurs, whales mirror pliosaurs. Even sea turtles trace their lineage back to these ancient swimmers. It's as if evolution kept the same blueprints, recycling designs across millions of years. You laugh softly, thinking of nature as a lazy architect who just resubmits old plans with a few edits. Night falls over the ocean, and the water glows faintly with bioluminescence. Tiny plankton sparkle with each ripple, turning the waves into liquid starlight. You sit at the shoreline, entranced, while shadows of marine reptiles patrol the glowing deep. Somewhere out there, giants feed in silence, unseen yet always present. The land behind you feels far away now. Here, under the moon and the endless waves, you realize something profound. Dinosaurs may dominate the earth, but the seas belong to different dynasties, just as fearsome, just as eternal. The night sky still hums with the memory of glowing plankton when you turn back inland. The sand sticks to your skin as if reluctant to let you go, but the ground rises, firmer, and with it, the scent of pine resin and wildflowers replaces the salt of the ocean. Time shifts under your feet again, sliding like pages in a book, and before you realize it, you've crossed into the Cretaceous period. The world looks familiar, yet sharper, more extravagant, like nature turned the saturation dial to maximum. Where the Jurassic forests were dense and dark, these landscapes open into sprawling plains and river valleys, shimmering with green. Flowering plants bloom everywhere, tiny bursts of color dotting the fields. They're new to this planet, these angiosperms, and their arrival will change everything. You brush your fingers against a bright petal and realize this is the first time Earth smells like a modern garden. Bees buzz lazily nearby, busy writing a story that will carry through to your breakfast table millions of years later. But you're not alone in these meadows. You hear it before you see it. A slow, thunderous beat, as though the earth itself has a heartbeat. Then, cresting the horizon, a herd of Argentinosaurus emerges, colossal necks sweeping the sky. These titans, among the largest land animals to ever walk, stretch over 100 feet from head to tail. You crane your neck until it aches just to follow their gaze, and you laugh, realizing they'd make giraffes look like house pets. If you forgot sunscreen today, standing beneath their shadow would save you. Not all giants lumber slowly. Near the riverbank, something moves with predatory grace. You squint, and your blood chills. A Spinosaurus, towering even above Tyrannosaurus, its sail-like back rising like a jagged fin against the sky. It prowls the shallows, jaws long and crocodilian, snapping at fish the size of cars. Paleontologists still argue over its lifestyle. Was it truly a swimmer or more of a wader? But here, before your eyes, it plunges deep, thrashing with terrifying agility, proving it rules both land and water in its domain. Further along the river plain, a different drama unfolds. Herds of triceratops graze in groups, their 3 horns catching the sunlight, their frills fanned like living shields. They snort, stomp, and occasionally spar, locking horns with bone-shaking force. The air vibrates with their challenge, and you instinctively step back. Imagine a rhinoceros mixed with a medieval knight's armor, then multiplied by several tons. That's what you're looking at. Predators lurk nearby, of course. You hear a low rumble, almost like distant thunder, and then spot a figure cresting the ridge. It's a Tyrannosaurus rex, its jaws massive, teeth curved like serrated daggers. Yet, here's a twist. Instead of charging at the Triceratops herd, it hesitates, circling, patient. You realize this predator isn't reckless. It knows a wrong move could mean death by impalement. This isn't a monster movie showdown. It's chess, played with tons of muscle and bone. Smaller players dart around too. Packs of raptors, sleek, feathered, and coordinated, scavenge at the edges, snapping at leftovers and testing weak points. You notice their feathers glint iridescent in the sun, and you chuckle. If you squint, they almost look like oversized, grumpy turkeys with murder on their minds. Not the kind of bird you'd want at Thanksgiving dinner. The landscape itself tells a story. Vast inland seas cut through the continents, dividing land into islands and peninsulas. Climate shifts drive new adaptations. Plants spread pollen on the wind. Insects diversify. And dinosaurs evolve bizarre features. From crests that look like musical instruments to tails that could double as clubs, it's as if evolution started experimenting just for fun. Some historians of life still debate whether these extravagant designs were for defense, display, or simply showing off. As dusk paints the plains gold, you sit beneath a flowering magnolia, watching a tableau unfold. A herd of triceratops moves slowly across the horizon. Spinosaurus disappears back into its watery haunt, and the distant roar of T-Rex rolls like thunder over the fields. The world is alive, buzzing, blooming, and roaring, every inch of it brimming with invention. You lean back against the tree, petals drifting down like soft confetti, and think. This is the age when dinosaurs truly owned the earth, not just rulers, but innovators, shaping ecosystems that still echo into your present day. The plains fade into twilight, and with each step you feel the ground lightening beneath you as if it's preparing to give way. A breeze brushes your cheek, warmer than you expect, carrying with it the sound of flapping, not the gentle flutter of songbirds, but the leathery thrum of wings the size of sails. You tilt your head back, and the sky suddenly feels crowded. Above you swoops a creature that makes every hawk you've ever seen look like a paper airplane. Its wings stretch wider than a small plane's, tapering into narrow tips that slice the air with ease. This is Quetzalcoatlus, one of the largest pterosaurs, a flying reptile so massive it looks like a living kite powered by sheer arrogance. When it glides overhead, you instinctively duck, though it's soaring hundreds of feet up. Imagine the shadow of a skyscraper passing over you, except the skyscraper happens to squawk. The air is alive with them. Smaller pterosaurs wheel in flocks, their crests painted in dazzling colors, bright reds, yellows, even electric blues. You laugh quietly, realizing that paleontologists suspect those head crests might have been used for display, like neon billboards screaming, "Pick me, I'm fabulous." Somewhere, a male shows off with a dive and roll, nearly colliding with another in his effort to impress. Clearly, love has always made creatures do dumb stunts. Not all are graceful. A clumsy-looking anhanguera lurches toward a lake, its long beak packed with sharp teeth, like a nightmare fishing rod. With a sudden plunge, it scoops a wriggling fish from the water. You watch scales flash as it tosses the prey back and swallows whole. Somewhere nearby, another attempts the same trick, but misses and belly flops spectacularly into the lake. The splash sends ripples across the surface, and you chuckle, proof that even the lords of the sky have their bad days. You start to notice their variety. Some are as small as crows, flitting between trees, chirping like the distant ancestors of modern birds. Others are titans, wings spanning over 30 feet, gliding like warships above the clouds. Together, they own this dimension of life. On the ground, dinosaurs rule. In the water, marine reptiles reign. But up here, this is pterosaur country. The ground shakes suddenly, and you turn to see one of the giants land. It folds its wings awkwardly, like a collapsed umbrella, and stalks forward on long, stork-like legs. Its beak snaps at a small lizard, swallowing it with casual efficiency. On land, it looks absurd, part giraffe, part crane, part monster. But once airborne, it transforms into poetry. You're struck by the duality. Ungainly walkers, flawless flyers. And here's the curious thing. Their hollow bones made them light, but not fragile. They were strong enough to launch themselves with a vaulting motion, using their powerful forelimbs like catapults. Imagine pole vaulting into the sky every morning just to start your day. You'd never need coffee again, though you definitely need a bigger ceiling. The air grows busier as dusk deepens. A flock swirls in formation, wings catching the last rays of sunlight, their shadows stretching across the ground like dancers on an invisible stage. They squabble, chatter, and swoop, some skimming the water for insects, others climbing higher and higher until they vanish into starlight. You stand transfixed, realizing this is one of the few times in Earth's history when the sky itself was a battlefield for giants. Birds are still in their infancy, tiny whispers of what they'll become, but pterosaurs are already veterans, masters of airspace. Some scientists still argue whether Quetzalcoatlus soared across continents like a glider, or hunted on foot like a stilt-legged predator. Either way, standing here, you're grateful they've been extinct for millions of years. A sky full of creatures the size of buses doesn't sound very relaxing for air travel. Night finally cloaks the horizon, and the silhouettes of pterosaurs vanish one by one, leaving the stars bare again. You breathe out slowly, realizing that for a brief, dizzying moment, you walk beneath a sky crowded with giants. And just like the seas and plains, it belonged wholly to them. The stars linger above, but dawn arrives quickly, painting the horizon in pinks and golds. As the light grows, you notice something stirring in the undergrowth, smaller shapes darting between ferns and shrubs. They move with the nervous energy of sparrows, but their bodies are unmistakably reptilian. You lean closer, and the truth hits you. Here, in the late Cretaceous, the line between dinosaur and bird is beginning to blur. One bursts from the foliage, feathers flashing in the new sunlight. It's a microraptor, no bigger than a crow, its body draped in glossy black feathers with a strange shimmer, almost like oil on water. It leaps into the air, spreading 4 wings. Not just forelimbs, but feathered hindlimbs too. For a moment, it glides between branches like a living kite. You can't help but grin, part dinosaur, part bat, part very confused pigeon. It lands clumsily on a trunk, chirps irritably, and skitters upward in search of insects. Nearby, another creature stalks through the brush. At first you think it's just another raptor, but then it hops onto a low branch and fluffs its plumage. Archaeopteryx, with wings feathered enough to pass for a bird, yet teeth gleaming when it opens its beak. You imagine it sitting at your backyard feeder, scaring the life out of every modern finch. It flaps hard, takes to the air for a short burst, then crashes back down. Not a graceful flyer yet, but definitely on its way. The forest hums with these transitional beings. Feathers are no longer rare novelties, but evolutionary tools used for insulation, display, or even flight. Some raptors strut with tails tipped in bright plumes, flashing like neon signs to potential mates. Others ruffle downy coats, fluffing against the morning chill. You chuckle softly. It's like walking through the prehistoric version of a fashion show, with dinosaurs trying out the first feathery outfits. Yet the strangest sight awaits you deeper in the clearing. Perched on a branch, preening itself like a smug cat, is a tiny creature with a beak. Yes, a real beak, no teeth at all. This early bird peers down at you, chirping in a way that sounds startlingly familiar. You tilt your head, it tilts back, and for a heartbeat, you swear you're staring at the ancestor of every sparrow, crow, and chicken you've ever met. You can almost hear a rooster's crow echo faintly through time. The irony makes you laugh. These ferocious dinosaurs, once rulers of the earth, are slowly reinventing themselves into something much smaller, fluffier, and frankly ridiculous. Imagine telling a T-Rex that its descendants would someday be pigeons begging for French fries in a city park. Evolution has a wicked sense of humor, but not everything about this transition is clear. Paleontologists still debate how exactly flight first emerged. Was it trees down, creatures like Microraptor gliding from branch to branch, or ground up, dinosaurs sprinting and flapping until they stumbled into the air? Standing here, watching both, you realize the truth may be messy, a collage of strategies that eventually stitch together into flight. Above, the sky fills with flutters, squeaks, and calls. Not the leathery whoosh of pterosaurs, but sharper, quicker beats. The air is beginning to sound modern. And with each wing beat, you feel history leaning toward a future where feathers will define the rulers of the skies. You lean against a tree, listening to the rustle of feathers all around, the chirps echoing through the forest canopy. The great thunder lizards still dominate the plains, but here, in these quiet groves, their legacy is being rewritten. The next dynasty is already rehearsing its songs. The forest quiets as you step out from the canopy. The feathery chirps fade behind you, replaced by an older, deeper rhythm. The pounding of colossal feet. The low rumble of a predator's call carried across the plains. You pause, every nerve on edge, because here in the Cretaceous, the apex predators are never far. The ground trembles faintly beneath your boots. At first, you think it's distant thunder, but then you see it. A massive shadow moving along the ridge. The silhouette sharpens into a Tyrannosaurus rex, its skull broad, its jaws lined with teeth like serrated knives. When it exhales, the sound is part hiss, part growl, like a freight train braking. You remind yourself that this beast could crush bone with a single bite, snapping through it as easily as you'd bite through a breadstick. Suddenly, the phrase, "you wouldn't last a second out here," feels painfully literal. But the T-Rex is not alone in this age. Across the river plain, another titan prowls. Giganotosaurus, leaner and longer, with a jaw designed for slashing rather than bone crushing. Imagine a predator the size of a city bus, built for pursuit. It moves with startling agility, weaving between stands of trees in pursuit of a herd of hadrosaurs. You can hear their honking distress calls as they scatter, splashing through the shallows, desperate to escape. Not far off, a different kind of hunter waits. A Dromaeosaurus, smaller but no less lethal, darts from cover. Its sickle-shaped claws gleam, raised high like switchblades. Unlike the solitary titans, These raptors thrive in packs, their coordination making them more dangerous than sheer size ever could. You picture them circling, testing, probing for weakness, the prehistoric version of wolves with feathers. Each predator has its role, its kingdom carved from tooth and claw. Some, like the abelisaurids, stalked the southern continents, bizarre in form, with tiny arms even smaller than T-Rexes. Others, like the carcharodontosaurs, bore teeth shaped like shark blades, their very name evoking nightmares of serrated death. You imagine them tearing flesh from bone with horrifying efficiency, and a dark thought crosses your mind. You've wandered into the golden age of carnivores. Still, it's not all brutality. The balance between predator and prey keeps the landscape alive with tension. A lone hadrosaur bellows defiantly as it defends its young, tail whipping like a living club. A triceratops herd holds their ground, horns lowered, their frills flashing bright patterns in warning. The predators circle, but they don't rush. The cost of a mistake is too high. Out here, even kings bleed. You notice something strange as you watch. The predators, for all their terror, aren't mindless killing machines. They hesitate. They calculate. The Rex pauses at the edge of a herd, sniffing the air, weighing risk against reward. It knows which prey is sick, which is slow, which might give it the edge. This isn't chaos. It's strategy, honed over millions of years. And yet, despite their cunning, their dominance, something lingers in your mind. None of these apex predators will last. Their reign is immense, but temporary. One day the echo of their roars will fade, replaced by creatures so small they could perch on your windowsill. You chuckle softly, though uneasily. Imagine telling a T-Rex its dynasty ends with sparrows. The sun dips low, and the air grows cooler. The predators fade into silhouettes once more, their shapes dissolving into the shadowed horizon. For now, the night belongs to quieter things. But as you walk, you feel their presence pressing against the darkness, reminding you that for millions of years, this planet's heartbeat was set by giants with teeth. The predators melt into the night behind you, their echoes fading like the last notes of a storm. You walk further across the plain, and dawn spills its gold across the horizon. This time, the tremors beneath your feet aren't from hunters. They're from herds of giants rising to greet the new day. The first you see are the hadrosaurs, the so-called duck-billed dinosaurs. They move in vast groups, thousands strong, their calls a chorus of honks and bellows that sound oddly like an orchestra tuning up. One lifts its head, revealing a hollow crest shaped like a curved horn. When it exhales, a haunting note rolls across the valley, a low, resonant boom that vibrates in your chest. These crests, paleontologists suspect, were natural brass instruments used for communication across miles. You grin, imagining them as the first prehistoric jazz band. Not far beyond, the true behemoths graze, sauropods, their necks sweeping the treetops like living cranes. One Alamosaurus, massive even by sauropod standards, lumbers into view. It stretches over 100 feet, dwarfing everything else in sight. You tilt your head back so far it almost hurts, trying to trace its length. If you think of modern elephants as heavyweights, these are heavyweights multiplied by 10. Every step makes the ground ripple beneath you. Yet, size isn't the only defense. The ankylosaurs shuffle at the forest's edge, squat tanks of bone and armor. Their backs are plated with bony scutes, their tails ending in massive clubs. One swings its tail experimentally, striking a tree with a crack so loud it makes you flinch. You realize that even a Tyrannosaurus would think twice before attacking one of these armored fortresses. The ankylosaur blinks slowly, chewing on ferns, looking like a prehistoric bulldozer that doesn't care what's in its way. Then come the ceratopsians, the horned dinosaurs. Triceratops leads the charge, but others follow, each with extravagant frills and spikes. Some frills are decorated with holes, patterns like stained glass, possibly splashed with bright colors and life. They march together, snorting and huffing, their horns gleaming like a phalanx of knights in armor. Watching them, you understand. These herbivores are not passive prey. They are fortresses on legs, fully capable of turning hunters into cautionary tales. One moment sears itself into your memory. A small herd of hadrosaurs grazes peacefully when a raptor pack appears at the tree line. For a heartbeat, tension coils. But then, with a coordinated stomp, the hadrosaurs close ranks, their tails lashing in unison, their crests trumpeting in defiance. The raptors hesitate, hiss, and finally slink back into the shadows. You smile. Sometimes survival is about solidarity as much as strength. What surprises you most is how social these giants seem. Sauropods graze in loose formations, moving like migrating whales across a sea of grass. Hadrosaurs keep close watch over their young, forming protective circles at the slightest threat. Even ankylosaurs, so heavily armored they could almost ignore danger, seem to move in small groups, sharing the forest paths together. For animals often painted as mere background to predators, their lives pulse with cooperation and strategy. As you rest beneath a low tree, you notice the landscape itself has adapted to them. Trees grow tall and flexible, able to withstand the sweep of sauropod necks. Ground ferns spread in carpets, replenishing quickly under relentless grazing. The ecosystem bends around these giants, shaped as much by their appetites as by tooth and claw. You can almost hear the earth sighing under their weight, yet thriving in their presence. The sun climbs higher, painting the herds in gold. From a distance, they seem like moving mountains, a slow tide of life across the plains. For a moment, you feel small, fragile even, but also strangely reassured. These creatures aren't monsters. They're caretakers of their world, gardeners with appetites so vast they sculpted entire continents. You lean back, watching a triceratops lift its head and stare into the distance, its horns catching the light like spears. You realize that power in this age wasn't just about hunting. It was also about enduring. And these herbivores, armored, colossal, and united, embody endurance in its purest form. The morning air hums with life, a softer rhythm after the ground-shaking marches of giants. You wander into a valley where the true heartbeat of the Cretaceous reveals itself, not in roars or thunderous footsteps, but in the quieter, constant work of ecosystems balancing themselves. The first thing you notice is color. Bright blossoms speckle the meadows, petals unfurling in shades of yellow, crimson, and violet. Flowering plants, angiosperms, are spreading everywhere now, weaving a tapestry that looks almost modern. You kneel to examine one, its petals glistening with dew, and a small insect buzzes past your ear. A bee, or at least something like it, hovers and dives into the bloom, its body dusted with golden pollen. For the first time in Earth's history, flowers and pollinators are locked in a dance that will never end. You smile at the thought, a humble romance between plant and insect, changing the course of the planet. Above you, dragonflies zip through the air, their wings shimmering like stained glass. Some are giants compared to today's versions, their wingspans stretching wider than your hand. Butterflies and beetles flit among blossoms, joining the banquet. Even ants scurry in orderly lines, already perfecting their underground societies. You can't help but laugh. Ants have been overachievers since day one. The landscape itself seems richer. Ferns blanket the ground, cycads cluster in groves, and towering conifers rise like green spires against the sky. Grazers pass through, clipping leaves and spreading seeds in their wake. Each plant, each animal plays its part. A herd of hadrosaurs munch noisily on soft vegetation, trampling paths that will allow new growth to flourish. Ankylosaurs shuffle along, their armored bodies scattering seeds and clumps of dung, a prehistoric version of gardening by accident. Predators lurk at the edges, but even they are woven into the balance. A Tyrannosaurus moves through the plain not as chaos incarnate, but as a regulator, culling the weak and leaving space for the strong. Scavengers trail behind, from raptors to mammal-sized opportunists, ensuring nothing goes to waste. You realize it's less a battlefield and more a carefully tuned orchestra. Every note, fang, flower, feather, part of the same song. One odd sight stops you, a tree scarred with grooves and gnawed bark. Small mammals, furry shadows darting between roots, are testing their teeth on whatever they can find. They look unassuming, no larger than rats, yet you know their descendants will one day inherit this world. You chuckle at the irony, while dinosaurs tower and roar. These tiny night thieves are quietly waiting their turn. The climate itself carries a hand in the story. Warm, humid air bathes the land, with high sea levels flooding vast regions into shallow inland seas. You pause at the edge of one such sea, its shoreline alive with shellfish and small reptiles basking. The water gleams with schools of fish, their movements synchronized like living ribbons. Overhead, pterosaurs skim the surface, their wingtips brushing ripples, while seabirds, true birds now, join them, proving evolution doesn't mind doubling down on a good idea. As you sit on a rise overlooking the valley, the scene spreads before you. Flowers blooming, insects buzzing, herbivores grazing, predators patrolling, scavengers cleaning, seas lapping in the distance. Nothing feels wasted. Everything feels connected. You realize that this age, often remembered for its titanic predators and dramatic battles, is equally defined by its harmony. Without plants and pollinators, without grazers and seed bearers, without scavengers and decomposers, even the mightiest dinosaurs would have starved. The thought makes you smile. Life isn't just about the loud and the terrifying. It's also about the quiet, unnoticed threads holding the world together. You breathe in the thick, fragrant air, buzzing with insects, heavy with pollen, and think, here, in the Cretaceous, Earth itself perfected its balancing act. The harmony of the Cretaceous is intoxicating. You could almost believe it might last forever. Yet, as you linger in that golden valley, a strange unease creeps in. The air feels heavier, the seasons a little less predictable. Somewhere deep inside, Earth is shifting its weight, and the balance you admired is about to unravel. You walk along a coastal plain where the tide recedes farther than you expect, revealing sandbars pocked with shells. Inland, the climate grows fickle. Some years the rains are too heavy, flooding lowlands and choking plants. Other years, the dryness lingers, cracking soil into thirsty mosaics. The lush green tapestry begins to fray. You notice fewer flowers in bloom, their delicate petals struggling against the shifting patterns of light and water. Herds of hadrosaurs wander further for food, their paths worn into the ground like desperate pilgrimages. Even the air smells different, less sweet, more metallic, as if the planet itself is exhaling in warning. Far to the west, you see a glow on the horizon. At first, you think it's the setting sun, but no, it's fire. Great curtains of volcanic ash pour into the sky, blotting out stars and staining dawns and dusks with a blood-red hue. This is the work of the Deccan Traps, an inferno unleashed from Earth's crust in what will become India. Rivers of lava stretch for hundreds of miles, belching carbon dioxide and sulfur into the air, twisting global climates in ways no creature can adapt to fully. You feel the weight of the atmosphere pressing in. Too much carbon warming the planet, too much ash dimming the light. Crops of ferns and flowering plants falter, insect populations thin, and with them the delicate chain of pollination begins to stumble. For every flower that fails, a ripple of loss spreads outward. The seas are no safer. As you gaze into one inland sea, once teeming with glittering shoals, you find dead zones spreading like bruises. Excess nutrients, runaway algae, suffocating waters, all consequences of a biosphere tipping out of balance. Mosasaurs and plesiosaurs still glide through the depths, but their reign feels fragile now, like glass about to crack. And yet, the dinosaurs persist. A Tyrannosaurus trudges past, her ribcage heaving, eyes alert. She hunts, she kills, she feeds her young. Life continues, refusing to surrender, even as the world beneath it falters. There is resilience here, stubbornness written into every claw and feather. But you know resilience has limits. On one still night, you stand beneath the stars. The Milky Way arcs across the sky, breathtaking and eternal. But as you admire the glittering constellations, one point of light seems strangely bright. It isn't twinkling. It isn't moving with the others. It drifts, faint but steady, a silent herald of what's to come. You don't know it yet, but that small glimmer is a messenger from beyond the solar system's orderly dance. A piece of rock and metal, 6 miles across, traveling faster than sound can fathom. It has no malice, no intention. Yet it carries the power to end worlds. The Earth, alive with flowers, reptiles, and giants, has no idea. The stage is set, the orchestra still plays, but in the distance, the drumbeat of extinction has begun. The night sky holds its breath. That strange point of light you noticed before has drawn nearer, though no creature on Earth recognizes its significance. You feel the atmosphere hum faintly, as if the planet itself is bracing for something unspeakable. The Cretaceous world, so full of vibrant forests and thundering giants, has no inkling that the countdown has already begun. You walk across a coastal plain, the horizon painted with soft lavender and gold. Hadrosaurs graze quietly in the distance, tails swaying like metronomes. Somewhere nearby, a young triceratops nudges its mother, impatient for food. Everything seems normal, deceptively normal. But above you, high in the black sky, a streak of light ignites. At first, it looks like an unusually bright shooting star. But this one does not fade. It grows. In seconds, the streak becomes a blazing fireball, brighter than the sun, ripping through the atmosphere at over 20 kilometers per second. The air itself screams under the force. You shield your eyes, but the horizon has already become a wall of fire. When the asteroid strikes the shallow sea near what will one day be Chicxulub, Mexico, the earth convulses. The sound is beyond hearing, a shockwave that flattens forests thousands of miles away. You are thrown to the ground as if the planet itself has bucked you off. The ocean erupts upward, a mountain of water flung into the sky, collapsing into tsunamis taller than skyscrapers. In that instant, more energy is released than billions of nuclear bombs. A crater, more than 100 miles wide, gouges itself into the Earth's crust. Rocks vaporize, seas boil, the air becomes fire. Molten debris rains back down across continents, igniting wildfires that stretch from horizon to horizon. You can feel the heat even as you stagger to your feet, the ground trembling beneath every step. And then comes the darkness. The impact hurled dust, sulfur, and shattered rock into the upper atmosphere, where it spreads like a shroud. Within days, the skies are dimmed to twilight. Within weeks, sunlight is strangled almost completely. Plants, robbed of their lifeblood, wilt and wither. Whole forests collapse into silence. You wander through a charred plain, stepping over the blackened remains of cycads and fallen trunks. A once proud herd of hadrosaurs lies still, their forms reduced to ash and bone. In the distance, the earth glows red from endless wildfires, their smoke curling upward into the already poisoned sky. The seas suffer too. Acid rain, born from sulfurous gases, falls upon them, turning waters corrosive. Coral reefs bleach and crumble. Plankton, those tiny unseen architects of the food web, diminish in number, unraveling marine ecosystems from the bottom up. Even mighty mosasaurs and plesiosaurs find their domain stripped of life. Yet, amidst the devastation, you notice a scuttling shadow. A small mammal darts from beneath a log, clutching seeds in its cheek pouches. It vanishes into a burrow, safe from the choking skies above. While giants fall, these tiny survivors cling to life in silence, their resilience hidden in darkness. You hear the ground tremble again, not from the impact this time, but from a lone Tyrannosaurus rex. She staggers through the haze, ribs protruding, eyes fierce yet clouded with hunger. She roars into the smothered sky, but the sound feels weaker now, swallowed by the void. She was once queen of this world, but the throne has vanished beneath her feet. The historians of tomorrow will still argue, was it the asteroid alone? Or did the Deccan Trap's volcanic fury, already underway, weaken the Earth first? Perhaps both, weaving together into a tapestry of doom. What is certain is this. Tonight, the Age of Giants begins its final act, and you, standing amid the smoke and silence, realize the truth. No roar, no wing beat, no thunder of hooves can outlast the cold certainty of extinction. The silence after the cataclysm is heavier than the roar that preceded it. You stand in a twilight world where the sun, once blazing and life-giving, is veiled behind a curtain of ash. Days blur into nights, and nights into an endless dim gray. The earth feels hollowed out, as if the pulse of creation itself has slowed to a faint, uneven beat. You walk across what was once a lush forest. Charred trunks rise like broken teeth from the ashen ground. Ferns, those quiet green pioneers, are the first to creep back, their fronds pushing through the soot as though defying the void. It is called a fern spike by modern scientists, a botanical rebellion signaling nature's stubborn will to return even after devastation. But the great beasts do not return. Herds of hadrosaurs and ankylosaurs are gone, their absence like missing notes in a symphony. The thunderous predators that once shook valleys, Tyrannosaurus, Giganotosaurus, are nothing but bones beneath the shifting soil. The Age of Dinosaurs has collapsed, not with a slow fading, but with a brutal final silence. The seas are no kinder. You peer into shallow waters and find them strangely empty. The glitter of fish is sparse, the corals skeletal and ghostly. Marine reptiles, once lords of the oceans, are absent, leaving only ripples where leviathans used to glide. The food web has crumbled, plankton populations decimated by the absence of sunlight. The ocean, once a living tapestry, now feels like a grave, and yet life clings. In the shadows, mammals scurry with quiet determination. Tiny shrew-like creatures dart between roots, feeding on insects that survived in sheltered nooks. They are insignificant in size, but in resilience they are unmatched. Their secret is not strength or size, but adaptability, warm blood, fur, the ability to burrow and wait out the cold. You catch a glimpse of one nibbling on a fern shoot, unaware it holds the thread of future empires. Birds too survive, though diminished. Descendants of the feathered dinosaurs, they adapt with cleverness, finding seeds, scavenging carrion, enduring the darkness. Their songs, faint and sporadic, pierce the silence like fragile bells. You walk onward, and the air is sharp with sulfur, acrid enough to sting your throat. Acid rain slicks the stones around you, leaving pale scars etched into the land. Rivers run strangely colored, poisoned by ash. Insects skitter across the water's surface, survivors of ancient lineages that seem unshakable. Life, it seems, finds ways to persist even in poisoned streams. Occasionally you stumble upon the remnants of giants. A triceratops skeleton lies half buried in dust, its frill jutting like the ruin of a cathedral. Beside it, the delicate imprint of ferns already curls around the bones, claiming them back into the earth. You pause, feeling the weight of history pressing down. These were creatures that ruled unchallenged for millions of years, and now they are fragile memories etched in stone. And still, debates will echo through future centuries. Did the asteroid alone snuff them out? Did volcanic winters deal the first blow? Or was it the slow unraveling of ecosystems that made them vulnerable? The truth is likely a tangled knot of all three, a convergence of disasters. What you see, though, is not a puzzle of data points, but the aching reality of absence. A world once brimming with motion now echoes with hollowness. And yet, tucked into burrows, clinging to trees, darting through streams, survivors endure. The darkness lingers for years, but in that shadowed silence, the seeds of a new world are already stirring. The gray veil begins to thin. After years of dim skies and poisoned rains, faint sunlight finally pierces the ash, spilling timid rays across a wounded planet. You stand in a valley where green is returning, at first in patches, then in carpets, ferns and grasses creeping like whispers over the scars of fire. The air is still heavy, but softer now, carrying the scent of wet soil rather than smoke. You crouch low, close to the ground, and there they are, the new rulers, though they don't look the part. Small mammals scurry between roots and fallen logs, their movements quick and furtive. Shrew-like creatures, no bigger than your hand, gnaw on seeds and insects. Some climb trees with nimble claws. Others dig burrows where they raise their young safe from predators that no longer exist. For millions of years, mammals had lived in the shadows, overshadowed by dinosaurs' sheer size and dominance. They kept to the dark, emerging only when safe, surviving on scraps. But now, with the giants gone, the stage is theirs. You watch as they experiment with forms, longer limbs, sharper teeth, more complex social bonds. Their secret isn't power or bulk, but adaptability. You hear a soft rustle, and from the undergrowth emerges a strange little mammal with teeth sharp enough to crack beetle shells. Its eyes are wide, scanning, curious. It pauses to sniff the air, then vanishes with a flick of its tail. These small survivors may seem unremarkable, but within them lies the blueprint for wolves, for elephants, for primates, and eventually, for you. Birds too thrive in this new world. Once just feathered shadows among the dinosaurs, they now stretch their wings into a freer sky. Some peck seeds in open fields. Others skim insects over rivers. They sing, tentative but insistent, weaving sound back into a world that had gone silent. Their resilience is a reminder. Though their dinosaur kin have vanished, a sliver of that ancient legacy endures in every flap and call. Insects return in swarms, reclaiming the skies with dizzying persistence. Beetles crawl through mossy bark, while dragonflies hover above streams as if nothing had ever changed. Frogs croak again in murky pools, amphibians carrying their lineages forward like guardians of deep time. Life, fragile yet relentless, pushes outward from every corner. You sit by a stream and watch as mammals creep closer to water's edge. They lap cautiously, then dart back into cover. For the first time, you realize this is no longer a dinosaur's world. The era of small things has arrived, and in their quiet resilience, they hold the promise of something greater. Still, the Earth is unsettled. Volcanoes grumble, climates sway between extremes. Ecosystems wobble like a tightrope walker. Yet each trial shapes the survivors, sharpening their tools, forcing them to adapt faster, to think, to innovate. The age of giants is gone, but in its ashes, the seeds of intelligence are germinating. You lean back against a charred tree trunk, listening to the forest reclaim itself. The rustle of tiny paws, the flutter of wings, the chirp of insects. It's not the thunder of dinosaurs, but it is music nonetheless. And in that quiet music lies the first heartbeat of a new age. The earth feels younger again, though the scars of fire and darkness still linger. You step through a forest where green bursts from every branch, ferns curling, flowering plants spreading in wild profusion. The silence of extinction has lifted, replaced by a new chorus, chirps, rustles, and tiny footfalls, far different from the thundering echoes of the past. You crouch low, watching as mammals push the limits of their small bodies. Some scurry through undergrowth with twitching noses, while others climb trees, experimenting with height, as though daring themselves to become something new. A few even glide from branch to branch with stretched skin flaps, early innovators in the art of flight. You realize you are witnessing the first sketches of possibilities that will one day become bats, primates, and far stranger forms. At a riverbank, you see a different experiment unfold. A squat, otter-like mammal splashes after fish, its webbed paws paddling awkwardly but effectively. In another clearing, hoofed ancestors step cautiously, their elongated toes pressing into the soft earth, testing the ground as though they already dream of open plains that do not yet exist. Predators return as well. Small carnivorous mammals hunt insects, amphibians, and even each other. Their teeth are sharper now, their senses keener, their minds more calculating. Without the shadow of dinosaurs, the arms race of survival has shifted, and brains are becoming as vital as claws. Birds, freed from competition with flying reptiles, claim the skies with confidence. Some evolve into larger forms, stalking the ground like feathered hunters. You pause as one such giant bird bursts from the undergrowth, its beak curved like a blade. It strikes down a small mammal with chilling precision, proving that flight is not the only weapon birds carry into this new age. The seas echo this theme of reinvention. Tiny mammals edge toward a semi-aquatic life, nibbling fish and insects along shorelines. Though they appear unremarkable, one day their descendants will rule the oceans as whales and dolphins, mammals returning to the sea in a strange full-circle dance. And all the while, flowers spread across the land, partnering with insects to paint fields in color. Pollination webs knit together tighter, weaving ecosystems rich with variety. With every bloom and buzz, the planet feels less like a graveyard and more like a canvas, fresh, bright, filled with possibilities. You pause on a hillside, looking over this restless new world. It isn't the age of giants anymore. It's the age of experimentation. Every creature you see is a gamble, a prototype, a possibility tested against the unpredictable forces of climate and chance. Some will vanish as quickly as they appeared, leaving little more than fossils as footnotes. Others will endure, adapting, refining, becoming stranger and more brilliant with every generation. Historians may debate the asteroid, the volcanism, the slow unraveling of ecosystems, but here in this forest, none of that matters anymore. What matters is the spark, life refusing to surrender, reshaping itself with every breath, every bite, every step. You realize, as you watch a small primate-like creature leap clumsily from one branch to another, that you are standing at the very edge of your own story. The age of giants has passed, but in its place rises something quieter, cleverer, and infinitely more enduring. The air feels lighter now, as though the earth itself has exhaled after millions of years of holding its breath. You stand in a clearing where sunlight filters through tall trees, their leaves shimmering with dew. Around you, the ground trembles, not with the thunder of giants, but with the quiet stirrings of smaller feet. The age of dinosaurs is gone, and in its place, something altogether different is taking root. You crouch by a stream, watching a small primate-like creature with curious eyes. It grips branches with nimble fingers, pausing to examine a piece of fruit before biting into it. There is something startlingly familiar in its movements, a flicker of intelligence shimmering like a candle in the dark. You realize this is not just another survivor. It is a signpost, pointing forward to futures yet unwritten. The forests are alive with experiment. Mammals stretch into forms that will one day become horses, elephants, big cats, and whales. Birds diversify into dazzling shapes and colors, from tiny songbirds to towering predators that dominate open fields. Flowers spread across continents, weaving a partnership with insects that hums like an unseen engine beneath the surface of life. You walk across an open plain where early hoofed mammals graze nervously, ears twitching at the faintest sound. Above them, birds circle on the thermals, scanning for opportunity. It is a new balance, delicate but full of promise. The earth, scarred by fire and shadow, is learning to breathe again. At the shoreline, you glimpse a strange sight. Small mammals slipping into the waves, their paws paddling like awkward oars. They vanish beneath the surface, re-emerging with fish in their jaws. They are clumsy now, but one day their descendants will sing across oceans as whales, the largest creatures ever to live. The irony is sharp. Where dinosaurs once ruled with size, mammals will return with both size and song. The planet itself is changing. Continents drift, mountains rise, climates shift. Each transformation challenges life, forcing adaptation, demanding resilience. And again, life answers. You see in every leaf, every paw print, every feather, the persistence of that one truth. Extinction ends eras, but never the story. You glance back, and for a moment, you almost hear it again. The distant thunder of sauropods moving across the land, the shrill call of a pterosaur slicing through the sky. The ghosts of giants linger, etched into stone and memory. But their time is past, and though they are gone, they have not been erased. Every bird that beats its wings, every mammal that draws breath, carries fragments of that ancient world within. And now, the future belongs to them, to mammals that will one day shape tools, build cities, gaze at the stars, to birds that will fill the skies with song, to a planet that will never stop changing, never stop demanding invention. You stand at the threshold of a new world, and for the first time in this long journey, the path leads directly to you. The age of giants is over. The age of possibility has begun. The light softens, your steps slow, and your breath matches the rhythm of this new earth. The images blur, the forests, the plains, the seas, all fading into a gentler haze. The voices of giants grow quieter, dissolving into whispers. The hum of insects and the distant call of a bird remain, steady, soothing, like the steady beat of a lullaby. And as the weight of the story settles into silence, you let yourself drift, peacefully, gently, into the stillness of sleep.